Have you ever wondered why some deaths on Mount Everest never make it to the headlines? Why, in 2025, when the world is more connected than ever, one man's tragic end could be erased, hidden, like it never even happened? Tonight on Ben Stories, we dive into a chilling tale. A story of ambition, secrecy, and the mountain that has swallowed more lives than any other, Everest. This is the story of the first confirmed death on Everest in 2025, the one the media tried to bury. It was early May 2025. The climbing season had just begun, and the Khumbu Valley buzzed with restless energy. Climbers from every corner of the world had gathered in Nepal, chasing the same dream, to stand on top of the world, to plant their feet on the summit of Mount Everest. Among them was a quiet, determined man from South Korea. His name was Kim Jun, 36 years old. To most of the world, Kim was just another climber. But those who knew him understood this climb wasn't just about glory. He was carrying something heavier than his backpack, something personal, almost haunting. Kim was not a famous alpinist. He wasn't sponsored by major brands. He wasn't chasing Instagram likes. He was, in many ways, invisible. And maybe that's why his story could be erased so easily. Kim's life before Everest was filled with contradictions. Back in Seoul, he worked as a mid-level engineer at a construction firm. On paper, his life looked ordinary. A steady job, a small apartment. No children, no scandals. But beneath the surface, he was restless. His friends said he spent his nights staring at expedition documentaries, scribbling notes about routes, oxygen strategies, and survival techniques. What drove him? That's where things get strange. In 2023, Kim lost his younger brother Kim Jun to a hiking accident in the Taebaek Mountains of Korea. The body was recovered, but something inside Kim never healed. Friends recall him whispering almost obsessively, "Mountains give, mountains take. I need to understand why." Everest for Kim wasn't just a climb, it was an answer. By late April 2025, Kim was in Nepal. Base camp was already packed. Tents, prayer flags, the constant hum of helicopters ferrying supplies and evacuating the sick. He joined a small guided team, though he rarely spoke to anyone. One Sherpa later described him as the man with haunted eyes. And yet something about Kim's expedition was off. Unlike other climbers, he avoided journalists, refused interviews, and never posted on social media. His name wasn't even on the official climber registry at first. It appeared later, almost as if someone had added it quietly. Why? Who was trying to hide his presence? The climb began like countless others. Through the Khumbu icefall, that frozen labyrinth of collapsing seracs and deep crevasses. Up to Camp 1, then Camp 2, where climbers gasped under thin air. Kim moved with precision, almost mechanical. His teammates later said he barely spoke a word, except to ask about weather forecasts. But here's where the story twists. At Camp 2, Kim's oxygen mask malfunctioned during the night. Others offered him a spare regulator, but he refused. "I'll manage," he muttered, his voice weak. The Sherpas insisted he turn back, but he didn't. He pushed higher. By May 9th, Kim reached the infamous Camp 3, clinging to the Lhotse face. Winds screamed against the tents. Climbers huddled together, but Kim kept to himself, sitting in silence, scribbling something into a small black notebook. That notebook would never be found. 2 days later, on May 11th, Kim joined the summit push. The weather window was brief, brutal, and crowded. Dozens of climbers clipped into the fixed ropes, moving like a human chain toward the balcony. Kim was in the middle of the line, his hood pulled tight, his eyes locked on the summit. Hours later, at the South Col, Camp 4, the death zone, something happened. Witnesses say Kim collapsed briefly, gasping. His Sherpa guide begged him to stop, but Kim shook his head. "I must go," he whispered, and he did. At 3:20 a.m. on May 12, 2025, Kim was last seen alive near the Hillary Step. Beyond that, the mountain swallowed him. Now here's the shocking part. Normally, when someone dies on Everest, it makes headlines. Photos, names, obituaries. They spread across the internet in hours. But with Kim, silence. No official announcement. No news articles. His name vanished from the expedition records. Even climbers who were on the same route were later told, "You must be mistaken. No Korean climber died here this year. How can that be? How can a man vanish not just from the mountain, but from history?" Some say it was politics. South Korea in 2025 was facing diplomatic tensions and didn't want a death on Everest to overshadow a national holiday. Others whisper it was something darker. that Kim's death revealed negligence, or perhaps something the expedition company wanted hidden. All we know for certain is this. A man named Kim Jun, 36 years old, reached for the top of the world and never returned. And someone somewhere decided the world should not know, but this is just the beginning. Because when we dig deeper into Kim's story, we find disturbing patterns, secret messages, missing documents, and people who swear they saw his body, only for it to disappear. So tonight, ask yourself, if the death of a single climber can be erased so easily, what else is being hidden on the slopes of Everest? The night Kim disappeared, the winds on Everest roared like an angry god. Climbers who descended later reported gusts strong enough to knock a man off the ropes. And yet no official incident report mentioned Kim Jun. It was as if he had simply never been there. But people talk. One Italian climber, still frostbitten, swore he saw Kim lying motionless just below the Hillary step. His downsuit was blue, his boots yellow, his oxygen mask torn from his face. The Italian raised his radio to report it, but was told by the expedition operator, "Focus on your descent. Do not mention names over the radio." He later told fellow climbers at base camp, "That man is dead, but they don't want us to speak about it." Why the silence? Why erase a man's final moments? Back in Seoul, Kim's family waited for updates. His mother, a retired teacher, refreshed her phone constantly, expecting news from Nepal. But instead of condolences or official reports, she received nothing. Not a single call from the Korean Alpine Federation. Not even confirmation that her son had been on the mountain. On May 15th, when climbers were celebrating successful summits, Mrs. Kim tried contacting the guiding company directly. Their answer chilled her. "We have no record of a client by that name." Imagine that for a moment. Your son leaves for Everest. You hug him goodbye at the airport. He sends you a photo from base camp, and then just days later the company swears he never existed. So, what was going on? Some whispered that Kim was climbing under a false identity. But that doesn't match the facts. Fellow climbers had seen his Korean passport when they checked in at base camp. His permits were valid, even if they appeared in the registry late. So why deny him afterward? Others suggested something darker. In recent years, Everest has become a multi-million-dollar business. The guiding companies rely on spotless reputations. A death, especially an avoidable one, can scare away future clients. Cover-ups aren't unheard of, but they're rarely this extreme. And then came the rumors of negligence. At Camp 2, remember, Kim's oxygen mask had failed. A Sherpa claimed he had requested a replacement from the team's cache of spares, but the cache was mysteriously empty. They told us equipment was delayed, stuck at base camp, the Sherpa later said. But that's not possible. I think they didn't want to waste supplies on him. Did Kim die because of a malfunction the company refused to fix? And if so, was his erasure an attempt to avoid responsibility? Meanwhile, on Everest, whispers spread among climbers. Several claimed they saw a body dragged away from the fixed ropes, hidden under a tarp near Camp 4. One American even photographed what looked like a Korean climber's boot sticking from the snow, but the photo vanished from his phone days later. He swore he never deleted it. Think about that. A body disappears, a photo vanishes, and records are erased. Coincidence? Or something orchestrated? Let's pause for a moment. If you're watching this, you know Ben Stories is not about sensationalism. We tell the stories others won't because truth matters, even when it's uncomfortable. So if you value that, make sure to stay with us, subscribe, and help us uncover what mainstream media tries to bury. By late May 2025, word of Kim's fate had reached only a handful of climbers. The rest of the world remained oblivious. South Korean news outlets ran glowing pieces about local expeditions, yet not a single mention of Kim. On social media, questions were deleted within hours. One Reddit thread asking, "Did a Korean climber die on Everest this season?" disappeared overnight. The account that posted it? Suspended. It was as if invisible hands were sweeping every trace of Kim under the rug. But then came a leak. On June 1st, an email circulated among Everest insiders. It was allegedly from a Nepali official, confirming that a Korean male climber aged 36 expired near the South Summit on May 12th. The email included details: altitude, approximate time of death, and even mention of a Sherpa witness. Within hours, the email vanished from forums where it was posted, but not before several climbers screenshotted it. The truth was slipping through the cracks. What makes Kim's story so unsettling isn't just his death. Everest claims lives every season. But here, the deliberate silence is the real horror. Think about it. Kim's family never received his body. His name was erased from records. His teammates were told to stay quiet. A photo disappeared. A leaked email was scrubbed. Someone didn't just let him die. Someone wanted him forgotten. But there's one more layer, something that adds an eerie twist. Remember the black notebook Kim was seen writing in at Camp 3, the one no one ever found? 2 weeks after his disappearance, a climber from another expedition claimed he stumbled upon a torn page near Camp 4. The handwriting matched Korean script. The words, when translated, read, "If I don't return, know this. They are watching. The mountain is not the only danger." Chills. Was Kim trying to warn us? Who were they? The guiding company? Government officials? Or something else entirely? As June passed, the monsoon closed Everest for the season. The mountain was silent again, hiding its secrets under snow and ice. Kim Jae-hyun's story should have ended there, lost like so many others. But it didn't. Because even mountains cannot bury the truth forever, and what happened in the weeks that followed would blow open the mystery in ways no one expected. This was not just about one man's death. It was about a system of silence, a network of power, money, and fear. And if the story of Kim Jae-hyun could be erased, how many others have already been lost in the shadows of Everest? Stay with us, because Part 3 will take us deeper into cover-ups, missing climbers, and the chilling question, what price are we paying to stand on the roof of the world? When the climbing season closed in June 2025, most of the world forgot Everest. Social media moved on. News outlets shifted to politics and celebrity scandals. But for those who had been there, the climbers who saw the shadow of Kim Jae-hyun, the silence gnawed at them like frostbite that never heals. One of them was Maria Delgado, a Spanish climber who had reached the summit that same week. Back in Madrid, she couldn't shake what she had seen. A man in a blue down suit collapsed near the Hillary step, and the strange orders over the radio to keep quiet. "It was like we were told to erase him with our own silence," she later recalled. Maria tried to speak out. She emailed photos and details to a Spanish mountaineering forum, but within days her account was locked. The forum moderators claimed security concerns. Then she began receiving anonymous messages. "For your safety, stop talking." Someone was watching not only Kim, but also those who dared to mention him. Meanwhile, in Seoul, Mrs. Kim continued her search. She went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs demanding answers. Officials told her politely, "Your son is not listed as part of any Everest expedition." But she had proof, his boarding pass, his base camp selfie, the receipt for his climbing permit fee. Still, every door closed in her face. Then, one evening, she received a call from a blocked number. The voice on the other end spoke Korean with a Nepali accent. "Your son is gone. Don't ask more. They won't let you know the truth." The line went dead. She sat in her apartment trembling, staring at the last message her son had sent, a picture of prayer flags fluttering against the Khumbu Glacier, captioned, "For Min Jun." For answers. What answers? That question haunted not only his mother, but also the small circle of climbers who refused to let the story vanish. A Canadian guide, known only as Derek, claimed he'd spoken with a Sherpa who carried Kim's gear. The Sherpa confessed that after Kim collapsed near the Hillary step, he had been alive. Barely breathing, but alive. Instead of attempting a rescue, the team leader allegedly ordered, "Leave him. We can't risk others." This decision, cruel but not unheard of in the death zone, was bad enough. But then the Sherpa added something stranger. Later, someone came. They took his body, not down the mountain, away to the side, hidden. Why? No one hides a body on Everest. They mark it, they log it, sometimes they leave it. But hide it? That was something else entirely. Then came the twist. In late June, a mountaineering journalist in Kathmandu received a package with no return address. Inside was a USB drive. On it, a single video file. The footage, shaky and grainy, showed what looked like Camp 4 at night. A group of figures, their headlamps flickering, dragging something wrapped in a tarp across the snow. One whispered in Nepali, "Hurry, before sunrise." The object they dragged had the unmistakable outline of a human body. The journalist tried to publish the footage, but his article was taken down within hours. His editor claimed legal threats. Days later, the journalist himself disappeared from Kathmandu. Some say he returned to his home country. Others insist he vanished like Kim. The USB drive was never seen again. At this point, the whispers became more than rumor. They became a conspiracy. Some climbers believed Kim had discovered something he wasn't supposed to. Something in his black notebook. Remember the torn page found near Camp 4? They are watching. The mountain is not the only danger. Who were they? Some pointed to the guiding company, desperate to protect its reputation. Others suspected the Nepali authorities, eager to control narratives about Everest tourism. A darker theory emerged, that Kim had stumbled upon evidence of another climber's death, someone wealthy, powerful, whose family paid to keep it quiet. And perhaps Kim's fate was sealed not by the mountain, but by what he knew. Mrs. Kim wasn't alone in her search. By July, a small online group formed, calling themselves the Witnesses of 8848. They gathered every scrap of evidence, screenshots of deleted threads, fragments of leaked emails, testimonies from anonymous Sherpas. Among their findings was something chilling. At least 3 other climbers from past years had also vanished from official records, their deaths unacknowledged. Their families received no closure, no bodies, no answers. Was Kim just one more erased from the mountain's ledger? Or was his case different because he tried to fight back? Let's pause. If you're still here watching, you're not just curious, you're seeking truth. And that's what we do at Ben Stories. We don't just tell ghost tales of the mountains, we chase what others run from. So stay with us, because the deeper we go, the more dangerous this gets. In early July 2025, Mrs. Kim received one final envelope, slid under her apartment door. Inside was a photograph, printed and smudged. It showed a man's boot sticking from the snow, unmistakably yellow, the same kind her son wore. But the boot was half covered, as if deliberately buried. On the back of the photo were 3 words written in English. "Do not search." Mrs. Kim broke down. She knew then that her son was gone, but she also knew someone wanted her grief to remain quiet. She looked at the photo for hours, then placed it inside the frame of her son's last picture, next to the prayer flags. She whispered, "I will not stop." The story of Kim Jun should have been over. But instead, it was spreading underground, on encrypted chats, whispered in base camp bars, carried by climbers who couldn't forget what they saw. And soon, another twist would emerge. A climber who survived that season would reveal something that could change everything, something about the Black Notebook. And once again, Everest would prove it's not just a mountain, it's a mirror of our darkest secrets. The first whisper about the Black Notebook surfaced in July 2025, when an American climber named South Col returned home to Colorado. He had been part of a separate expedition but shared Camp 4 with Kim Jun for one cold, sleepless night. Ethan spoke quietly to a podcast host, off the record at first, then with partial details on air. He described seeing Kim scribble furiously in a small black notebook by the glow of a headlamp. It wasn't summit notes, Ethan said. It was like evidence, lists, names, coordinates. When pressed, Ethan admitted he had glimpsed one phrase written in English. False summit reports, paid silence. What could that mean? According to Ethan, Kim believed some companies were falsifying summit claims. Wealthy clients who failed to reach the top were allegedly photographed just below the summit ridge, then declared as having summited. For a hefty fee, Sherpas, guides, and even officials would sign off on the lie. If this was true, it would shake the Everest industry to its core. Reputations, millions of dollars, the very meaning of climbing achievement, built on lies. And maybe Kim had proof in his notebook. But when asked why he hadn't spoken up sooner, Ethan hesitated. His eyes shifted. "Because someone followed me after I got back," he whispered. "Black car, tinted windows, parked outside my apartment. I'm not crazy. They wanted me to stay quiet." Meanwhile, the Witnesses of 8848 group grew larger. Anonymous members began sharing fragments of information that lined up with Ethan's story. Screenshots of deleted posts claimed that in 2024, at least 2 climbers from China had been declared summiters, even though weather forced them back near the South Summit. Another said a billionaire from the Middle East was carried halfway, photographed, and proclaimed a hero. Kim, they speculated, had gathered hard evidence. Maybe photos, maybe recordings, and maybe that was why he had to be erased. Mrs. Kim, desperate for answers, agreed to meet one of the group members in secret. They chose a small tea house in Busan, far from Seoul. The man never gave his real name. He only said he was Aaron. He placed a USB stick on the table. "This is all I could save," he said. On the drive were 3 blurry images. One appeared to be of a summit certificate with altered names. Another showed a climber standing below the Hillary step, passed off as the peak. The third was the most haunting. Kim himself, sitting outside his tent at Camp 4, clutching the black notebook. The image was time-stamped just 24 hours before his disappearance. Mrs. Kim asked the only question she could manage. "Where is the notebook now?" Aaron looked away. "If I tell you, both of us disappear." At this point, the story should have broken into international headlines. But every attempt collapsed. Journalists backed out. Articles were pulled offline. Social media tags vanished overnight. It was as if a digital eraser hovered above Kim's name. Then in early August, an anonymous email reached Ben's stories directly. No greeting, no signature. Just a link. The link led to a hidden page on the dark web. On it were fragments of what seemed to be Kim's notes, typed out. Among the lines, "Summit claims falsified, 19 in 2023, 11 in 2024. Officials complicit, evidence recorded. If I disappear, they made it happen." Those words hit like an avalanche, but here's where it turned darker. Alongside the notes was a warning. He was not the first. He will not be the last. Stop digging. The page disappeared just 2 days later. For Mrs. Kim, there was no going back. She started speaking to anyone who would listen. Local reporters, activists, even church groups. She carried her son's photo and the smudged picture of the yellow boot. Her message was simple. "My son died on Everest." But not because of Everest. The pain in her voice resonated. Small rallies began forming in Seoul. Climbers around the world whispered her name. For the first time, the silence was cracking. And then came the biggest twist yet. In late August 2025, a Sherpa guide anonymously posted on an encrypted forum. He claimed he had been ordered not only to abandon Kim, but to move his body into a crevasse near the Kangshung face, far from normal climbing routes. Why? To ensure no one stumbled upon him. The Sherpa ended his post with a single chilling sentence. "The notebook is not lost. It was taken. That changed everything. If the notebook survived, then so did Kim's truth." Somewhere in Nepal or beyond was the black book filled with names, dates, and betrayals that could shatter the Everest industry. But at the same time, it meant those protecting it would stop at nothing to keep it hidden. And as August faded, one final clue emerged. An encrypted message sent to the witnesses of 8848. It read, "He wrote the last page in blood." And it was not for him. It was for us all. By September 2025, the whispers had grown into something louder. A storm breaking across mountaineering circles. Climbers argued in hushed tones at Kathmandu cafes. Expedition companies tightened their public statements. And still, no one dared mention Kim Jae-hyun openly. But silence has cracks. And sometimes, one crack is all it takes. It began when Ethan Cole decided he couldn't carry the weight anymore. Late one night, he contacted Ben's stories directly. His voice shook on the call. "I still have something from Kim," he confessed. He explained that on their shared night at Camp 4, Kim had ripped out a page from his black notebook and slipped it into Ethan's glove, whispering only, "If I don't make it, show this." Ethan had been too terrified to reveal it earlier. But now, with the growing whispers, he realized the truth had to surface. He scanned the page and sent it across. The handwriting was shaky but clear. On it were 4 damning lines. "Summit records falsified. Money flows to officials. If my name disappears, it was not the mountain." A list of 3 initials. RL, HT, KS. Who were they? No one knew for certain. But to those in the industry, the initials burned like fire. They could belong to powerful guides, organizers, or government figures. The revelation triggered panic. Within days, Ethan's social media accounts vanished. His climbing blog was wiped. He himself went silent. Some say he went into hiding. Others fear the worst. But he had already lit the fuse. Meanwhile, Mrs. Kim took the scanned note and held a press conference outside the South Korean parliament. Cameras rolled as she held up her son's handwriting, her voice trembling but strong. "My son did not die because of Everest. He died because of lies, and I will not let those lies bury him. The video went viral within hours. Hashtags with Kim's name trended in Korea, then worldwide. The Everest industry tried to push back, calling it speculation, fabrication, even emotional hysteria. But the more they denied, the more people began to ask, what are they hiding? And then came the twist no one expected. In mid-September, a leaked video surfaced on an encrypted app. This time, it wasn't blurry. It wasn't uncertain. It showed a group of climbers inside a tent at Camp 4, arguing in muffled voices. Kim's voice was unmistakable, shaky, exhausted, but firm. "They paid for lies," he said in Korean, "and if I speak, they will erase me." Then came another voice, accented English. "Shut up, you don't know what you're doing." The video cut off there. That clip spread like wildfire. News outlets that once ignored Kim now scrambled to cover him. The idea that Everest's glory could be tainted by money and corruption was too explosive to ignore. But for Mrs. Kim, it wasn't just about the system. It was about her son, about his promise to Kim Jun, about a man who had gone searching for answers and found only silence. By late September, one final piece emerged. An email, traced back to Nepal but impossible to confirm, was sent to the witnesses of 8848. It contained a photo of the notebook's last page. The words were written in smeared ink, some say blood. "Everest does not kill alone. Men kill too. If this page is found, let the world know. I was not the first, and I will not be the last. But the mountain remembers us all." That was the end of Kim's words, but not the end of his story, because now his voice has reached you. And you have a choice: forget him, like the world tried to do, or carry his truth further, so that no other climber vanishes without a trace. This is not just a story about one man. It's about what we value: fame over truth, profit over lives, silence over justice. Everest may stand taller than any peak, but even Everest cannot bury every secret. So if you believe Kim deserves to be remembered, don't let his voice fade. Share this. Speak his name. Keep asking the questions that others fear. Because the most dangerous thing on Everest was never the mountain. It was the silence. This is Ben Stories. Thank you for watching. If you want the truth to keep climbing higher than the lies, subscribe, share this story, and join us in refusing to look away. The mountain is watching, and so are we.